By the time we got to Safeway, that's what was behind us.
Wow, so you went north.
We went north.
Was there down power lines anywhere on the highway?
Everybody was stuck. The cops
We had no
everybody
idea that the
stopped,
road was stopped and they
nobody
wouldn't
go.
let us move. And I'm looking in the rearview mirror and the sky is getting blacker and blacker in my rearview mirror. And I'm like, I got out, we were stopped, I got out, I beat on his door. He said, "You scared the crap out of me." I was like, "You see that field? You see that field? If they don't let us go, you drive this fucking van
Because
right through that goddamn field and into the ocean because that fire is coming right now." And
Words escape me. I can't describe how I feel about this. I used to live in Lahaina. I'm a Maui resident, and this is just heartbreaking. A part of me lives in Lahaina, or should I say lived in Lahaina, because it's gone. Now we need to talk about this fire because this is personal to me. Not only that, you, the viewer, needs to understand what happened and stop believing the news. The news is lying. Everyone knows this. The news always lies. But if you want the real truth to this, please watch this video. I'm gonna break it down for you. I want you to understand Lahaina. Lahaina is known for being very hot and dry. Translated from Hawaiian to English, Lahaina translates to cruel sun. And this is the reason why fires in Lahaina is very common. So when I heard the news about this fire on August 8th, 2023, I just assumed the fire department had it under control. This is where the fire started. Now you have to understand what made this fire spread so fast is the 80 to 100 mile per hour gusts that was happening at the same time. Something we knew about before this fire started, but couldn't imagine that it would be this bad.
The fire on Lahaina is getting really severe. As is the wind. Just had a big old catamaran bust loose and
This footage was taken right after this fire started. That's how fast it was spreading. Now listen to the Maui fire chief. He explains what happened.
To get an understanding of how quickly the fire spread, was there a point of acceleration when the fire shot down the hill, or did it take place over the course of an hour or hours to get down to the Front Street area?
So where the fire started in the grass area outside of Lahaina Luna, and it rapidly moved down the hill and into the homes. It wasn't a continuous fire area, it was spotting, and it was spotting over the bypass when the initial fire started above the bypass. So as it entered the homes, it was moving just as quickly. The best timeline that I can provide is that the fire started about 2:55 p.m. That's when we got dispatched to it. And there were people reported to be going into the ocean that evening at 9 p.m.
Hearing that there were no airdrops on August 8th due to the high winds and that fire hydrants were running out of water, has lack of water ever been a concern for the department? And in all of your years of firefighting, has a fire hydrant ever run out of water on a crew from Maui before?
So water is the lifeline for a firefighter to be able to do his or her job. The winds that day hampered our aircraft from flying throughout the day and could do no bucket drops. We were able to get an aircraft out to Lahaina, but then we had to ground it due to the high winds. Throughout the day, the firefighters did have water until the hydrant system was impacted. We don't know why or when or what caused that shortage of water, but our firefighters continued to fight fire with the water tenders and tankers that we had assigned to the incident. They also, throughout the days, were able to identify private water supplies that they were able to get water from and bring back to the scene.
We actually do know why the water was shut off. Now, unfortunately, the fire department was victimized as well. But if you want to know who's responsible for who shut the water off, this is the guy.
Responsible per our authorizing statute to protect and manage all water resources in the state. One Water is like taking it and looking at it from a holistic system perspective. And that's not any different than how Hawaiians traditionally managed water. You know, and in essence, we treated Native Hawaiians treated water as one of the earthly manifestations of a god and a kua kane. And so that reverence for a resource and that reciprocity in relationship was something that was really, really important to our worldview and well-being, right? And living in an island, isolated from other, civilizations. And so I think where it shifted to today or over time is that we've become used to looking at water as like something which we use and not necessarily something that we revere as that thing that gives us life, right? I mean, to me, it's a shift in value set. And, if we can start to really look at how we as humans in an island can reconnect to that traditional value set. So really my motto is always like, let water connect us and not divide us. Like we can share it, but it requires true conversations about.
Tell me about the water guy who seems to have some love affair with water being more sacred than people in some of his former statements that didn't act to turn on the water. And it looks now like it was because of water equity. Is that true?
This is a much longer question, unfortunately, than you have time for. Maui has a long history of different entities fighting over who owns the water on Maui, and unfortunately, for decades now, the people have been suffering as a result. So I'm still learning the details of, they say they made the request to use the water for the fire trucks. The state didn't approve it quickly enough. I could tell you what I would do in that position. I would have just said, use the water. I'll ask for permission later. But, it's a really complex problem that ultimately can be summed up to corporations buying water rights to irrigate plantation fields and local people suffering from drought and lack of water as a result.
Wow.
That's the historical context that we're operating on.
So as you can see, the water was shut off. And it was because of that, the firefighters couldn't fight the fire anymore, and it spread throughout the whole town. That whole town burned to the ground. We're talking a historical town of Lahaina, gone. Folks, please forgive me. I did not intend to make this video this long. So I just want to make it clear I'm not trying to push any conspiracy theories, because I lost friends in that fire. I got friends that lost their homes in that fire. So I'm trying to stay away from conspiracy theories. But when you hear this witness's experience, you have to question what really happened.
I just went shock.
Yeah.
So. Well, it was very windy, so I decided I wouldn't be able to weave that day. So I left most of my stuff at my camp, and I walked to the bus stop, but the bus never came. And so I walked to Safeway, and the electricity was off. It was dark inside, and so I went in. They were still doing business. They had a big line. I had to wait hour and a half to get an orange juice to drink. And I had no idea there was a fire at all. It was just high winds. So it must have been somewhere around 4 o'clock or afterwards. I noticed a lot of people gathering at the door and looking out. So I went and looked, and I saw the fire across the street at the gateway, and you couldn't even see the gateway because the smoke was so thick. I'd never seen such dark smoke in my life.
Lahaina Gateway being the shopping center,
right,
with the Foodland Farms on the bypass. Yeah.
Right, I thought it was gone. There was power lines blocking the road, and so I decided that I looked around and I told people, I said, we should get out of here with these high winds. It could be here in just a couple minutes. And they just kind of stood around looking. So I walked around back of Safeway to Front Street, and I noticed all the cars were lined up all the way into town. And so I started walking towards the highway, on the chart house on Front Street, and there were a few people walking in front of me, one of them with a stroller, and the people in the cars were saying, "Would you like a ride?" And they all got in. And they asked me, I said, "No, there's a fire back there. You guys better get moving."
And how many cars were on Front Street at that time, would you say?
Hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yeah,
So
as
just
far
packed.
back as you could see. And so I kept walking towards the highway, towards the chart house. I figured there must be a pole down or something there to keep the cars from going out. And the closer I got, I realized there wasn't nothing obstructing the traffic. There was just a policeman there. And I started wondering myself if he was going to let me get out. But I looked up the highway and I saw a bicyclist and another person walking. I went, okay, they got out. But I was wondering, why are they keeping the cars here? Because they had all the traffic coming from the north stopped, but all the traffic going to the north, there was nothing obstructing it at all. Nothing, nothing.
So would they? So there were some power lines that were down right there at Waihikuli by where the chart house is.
Well, no, there weren't.
There weren't. At that time, there was not.
There was not. As far as I don't know if they came down later, but at the
Okay.
moment I walked there were no power lines. There was nothing obstructing the traffic from going out up north.
So about what time would you say that was, to the best of your recollection?
It was after 4.
After 4 o'clock, and
I
you're saying
believe.
Front Street is packed with cars.
It's all packed all
And
the
they-
way down, because when I came out of the back of Safeway, I looked, and as far as I could see, there were cars that way, and there were cars all the way to the end where the chart house was at. And when I got there, the cop who was there, I'm sure he couldn't see what was down the road, because of the way the
The way
intersection
it turns,
was there.
it curves right there.
But I didn't see any reason or anything to prevent the cars from leaving. There was nothing obstructing it.
Was there one police car there or two?
No police cars,
Oh.
just a policeman.
So what was blocking the road? Just him?
Just him. He was there in the front.
So why do you suppose people wouldn't just go, I mean, I'm sure they eventually did, but why would they not just go around him? Do you think that eventually they did go around him?
I would imagine when the fire, I wasn't there, but
Right.
when you see a fire, I mean, you're going to go.
Right.
You
I was
but-
told by the owners of Island Lock and Safe, they spoke a couple of days ago on this live, and they said when they were trying to leave Lahaina town, each exit had 2 police cars that were blockading the exit. So you didn't see that. You just saw one policeman standing there. You didn't see 2 cars blocking the blockade, or blocking the exits.
No.
Just one guy saying, no, you can't come here.
Right.
Got you. Okay, got you. And so then what happened?
Well, I walked past him, and I kept, every 2 minutes or every few minutes, I kept looking back. I didn't see anybody walk out, didn't see anyone on bicycle, didn't see any of the cars coming out at all. And so I got up to where the traffic was stopped coming from the north, and I'm looking up north, and I'm wondering, why aren't they letting them out? And
So these are the cars that are coming down from Kapalua,
yeah, they
Kaanapali,
had them
Honolulu?
stopped about a half a mile away from Front Street.
So were they stopped at the police station exit?
No, they were all the way, they were stopped right at the point where when you're coming from the north, there's a turnoff to go onto Front Street. Mm-hmm. Just before that.
Just before that. Okay,
And so-
about where the guy with the sign that sits all the time that says Jesus, right there?
Further down.
Further down. Okay, so
Yeah.
further down towards the
Yeah,
police
just
station.
about the end of where the ramps are at. You have the
okay.
ocean and this. So they were all stopped there. And again, I was wondering, are they going to let me through? But I saw some people walking up ahead of them, and I kept looking back, and nothing. Nobody coming out, no cars moving, and I got all the way to the around where the fire station was, and that's where I couldn't see anything anymore, and I just kept walking. And I was just wondering, why are they keeping those cars there? I had no idea what happened afterwards. I
Right.
didn't know until the next day. But it just really perturbed me that why? It's just it just didn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Now, since then, you've had some time to think about it and talk to people and recollect or whatever. Any answers? Do you have any interest, insight, or retrospective thoughts of what they were trying to accomplish with that?
Not really. I just feel guilty of not dressing the cop down or something, you know. I had no idea. And it was not until the next day, a few days after that, it started hitting me about what had happened, that, you know, and I feel guilty.
Right. But there's got to be some logical reason that the cop would try to stop people there, right?
Well, he must have been under orders.
Oh yeah, don't feel guilty. Some kind of orders that he was given, but you couldn't logically see the explanation for it. Is that all I'm getting at?
No.
Okay.
I also had that strange fear that he wasn't going to let me out, and what is going on here? It was, as I said, it's a combination of stupid and evil.
Right.
You know, it's the only way I can describe my feeling about it. It's just
the explanation. There is not really a logical explanation other than stupid meets
explanation.
evil. So that night, did you just hunker down because it was blowing 60, 70, and the fire's raging?
Destroyed my tent. I woke up the next day, I've never been so filthy in my life. Everything was filthy. And so I went and took a shower, and then I saw some people, and I asked them, is Safeway open? And they said, yeah. I said, okay. So I walked into town, and then I realized when I got to Le'ili'i, the fire had stopped right next to the tennis courts. It had gone that far. I had no idea it did. And as I was walking down the highway, I'm seeing across the highway everything burnt. And I'm like, got this far? And then I started thinking about Front Street, and I got to Front Street, and they had it blocked off. And I looked, and I saw no.
So since then, I'm sorry, Fish. I know I can't even.
Sorry, I've been holding back all this time.
Yeah, there's really not words to express.
Sorry.
Well, I know one thing that the Hawaiian people have asked for graciously in their press conference was giving the people a time to grieve and to have closure to this event, as opposed to just rushing in and accelerating everything and not giving the people the time that they need. Every culture has a different way of handling these situations, and their way needs to be honored, and they feel like they're not being listened to. And the government is just kind of coming in and steamrolling this whole thing and fast-tracking this. And is it okay if we switch gears a little bit and talk about what you think is going on, or do you have any theories or anything you want to share in that regard? Or I mean, I know
I just heard this morning that Biden's given FEMA an extra $12 billion. So, and I mean, what on the front to say, oh, we're giving $200 million to Ukraine, to kill people, and then we're going to give the Hawaiian families $700. One time, $700. I mean, what an insult.
Yeah.
Just, and no comment. Ha ha ha. Just right in your face. Right in your face. You don't even have to be a conspiracy theorist to see, just, and then they, talk about, oh, we're going to use, the state's going to take all the land from the people and all this, and then all the children that's disappeared, and there's just slowly, there's 100, 110, 111, And we know that there's a lot more. It's just,
Right.
This controlled type of releasing of information and stuff.
and no transparency.
None.
What about the sirens and the alarms and the FEMA, that whole thing about, if they sound the alarm, we're all trained to think that it's a tsunami when that's nowhere on their website. Their website says it's just for emergency purpose. And tune into your AM, FM radio, check your cell phone for further direction on how to avoid danger. Why is the narrative that they haven't corrected yet from the emergency director talking about this tsunami thing and he doesn't regret turning on the siren? I mean, could you imagine saying that in the wake of all these people that have died? And they don't come out and correct the record?
Plausible deniability. Oh, we thought the people would run into the mountains and run Malka and into the flames.
It's insanity, right?
That's insanity.
That's how they're going to honor.
Is he that stupid that he would do that? But
is it even more insanity that the officials haven't come out and corrected it for the record? The county mayor, the governor, anybody, the police chief, that no one has come on and corrected the record? Is that...
The police chief from Las Vegas, you know what happened there? I mean, there's too many, there's three things. It's called happenstance, coincidence, and enemy action. That's from a James Bond novel. So the happenstance, turn the water off, and then, coincidence, alarms, all this didn't go off. But then you put everything together, no, that's enemy action.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
Doesn't make sense. It's not to a logical person.
And what about the fact that they just changed the law in Hawaii back in July? They made a proclamation of emergency for housing that lasted 2 months, that now in the event of a natural disaster lifts all rules pertaining to historic districts and building permits and essentially gives the governor carte blanche to do anything he wants. The fact that that law was just passed a few weeks ago and now we happen to have a natural disaster, is that a coincidence?
It's beyond coincidence. Anytime you look like the Weimar Republic and everything, they had a beautiful constitution, but the weak point, the link point was in case of an emergency. The emergency clause all through history has been used like this.
Really?
So it's that emergency clause you got to watch out for, because that's what they use to, to do what they do, to justify it. So.
By the time we got to Safeway, that's what was behind us.
Wow, so you went north?
We went north.
Was there down power lines anywhere on the highway?
Everybody was stopped. The cops
had no
everybody
idea
stopped,
that the road was
let
stopped and they
nobody
wouldn't
go.
let us move. And I'm looking in the rearview mirror and the sky is getting blacker and blacker in my rearview mirror. And I'm like, I got out, we were stopped, I got out, I beat on his door. He said, "You scared the crap out of me." I was like, "You see that field? You see that field? If they don't let us go, you drive this fucking van right through that goddamn field and into the ocean because that fire is coming right now and we're not going to make it."
That's how all those people died, because they wouldn't let nobody go.
But why wouldn't they let them go? It's because they're down power lines. Yeah, that's the reason. So they couldn't go. They couldn't go around the power lines. The power lines
Let
can't.
us drive right through the goddamn pipe. They weren't lit. There was no
The
electricity.
power was out from the day before.
Right. So there's no power in the lines.
Well, it was that morning.
Because we were trying to look at the length of the poles. They wouldn't cross the whole highway. There should have been the lanes.
There was enough room that you could have gone
Right,
underneath.
right.
and
Oh, you got
around.
pictures of
I
it.
wanted to drive through there.
So what direction are we
But
looking there?
they stopped the traffic
So what-
right
is that-
there
is that
going
what-
north. That's Kapuna Kea right there.
That's Kapuna Kea.
And they would not let people move.
So how did you guys eventually get your car out of
We
there?
ended up fighting our way through the parking lot over
creeped
at
through.
Safeway.
A police officer came off the bypass here, and so the
We
traffic
forced
lane that was
ourselves.
supposed
It
to
was
go.
coming down. We forced ourselves
forced
into
our
2 lanes
in.
and forced our way out of the parking lot.
I wouldn't get off his bumper. I did not care about the rules and the laws of who you're supposed to stop and let the next person go because we got separated before, and I'm not going to get separated.
Oh, you guys in separate cars?
Yeah, I was in one van. He was in the other van.
Were there any fire trucks anywhere?
No, I don't think I saw. All I saw was the people that were directing us because of the power line. There was police officers that were telling everybody, go, go.
Yeah.
And there was somebody standing in the street saying, go, go, go.
Yeah.
One guy was driving this way, and when they were coming down this way, they were making them turn around at the Civic Center and go back. So one guy was in the street on almost like the left-hand turn lane, but not quite. And a power line came down and was hooked on his truck, and he was out of his truck telling the people that were trying to come down to stop. It was just an individual person, and to let the people that were coming from the fire, you know,
Yeah, let 'em
go
go
that
through.
way. But by then, there's like 1.5 lanes, two lanes to go that way because the lines had went down.